Hi, my name is Jamie and welcome back to J-Bug Jamie. Today we are talking about the new series Greenleaf, which is featured on the OWN network. I've been watching all 3 episodes. I've got a chance to watch episode 4, and so I want to talk about it with you guys. Let's talk about it. Episode 4 was really good. Even though I didn't agree with all that was in episode 4, we got a chance to see Grace Greenleaf show great humanity and heart in the scene where that preacher wants his own office. She really was sweet about making sure he gets an office to do the work that he's doing within the church. I think he's doing, whether he's doing kingdom building or helping the community, that one lady who was a secretary, she was way out of line about him not getting an office. I really give you big ups, Grace, for just making someone smile. On a side note today, do that. Do something for someone today. Make someone smile. Something that's very small but can brighten their day. So Grace making sure that the preacher gets the office, I really did appreciate that. So in this episode, we also got a chance to see the way the role that deacons play in the church. So the deacons played a major role in this scene because the deacons at Bishop Greenleaf's church, they feel like they have a lot of power that's equal to the pastor. And in this episode, Bishop Greenleaf kind of showed them, no, I have the final, the only, the most important say up in this church. I make the decisions. You know, because if you go to certain churches, there are churches where deacons have a lot of control. And then there are churches where pastors have the only control. So this show is touching on that, and I really like that because there have been times, if you do your research, where deacons have put pastors out of churches. So Grace's daughter wants to attend the Black Lives Matter protest, and Grace is against it because she makes a statement like, you know, those protests, they always end up in riots. I don't know if I like that statement because there have been peaceful protests. There have been protesters that have gone out there and protested. And then there also are protesters who are paid to go out there and stir up the pot. So that scene was cute. And she's telling her daughter, no, I don't want you to go out there. You don't need to be doing anything like that. And the daughter and her cousin and another guy, they actually are a part of this movement in their school where they have these t-shirts and they're really fighting for justice for the man who was brutally gunned down by the cop Nelson. Now they showed the protest, and there's this guy standing up there. He's like, did he say all lives matter? Because that's a touchy subject. If you say all lives matter versus Black lives matter, a touchy subject to certain people. They're having the protest, and the girls are out there protesting, and the grandfather actually goes to the protest himself to see whatever, you know, what's going on. I really did like that because a lot of preachers wouldn't have done that, going out there with the crowd unless there's a camera around to get a photo op. So he really went out there, but he didn't go out there to protest, but he went out there to kind of see for himself what was going on. He saw his granddaughters and he told them, come on, you guys, we gotta go. You can't be here, because he was worried about their safety. They go back to the house and they have a talk about what made you want to go out there. And then I didn't like that he kind of turned to Carissa and Jacob's daughter and kind of put the blame on her, whereas Grace's daughter is seen as innocent. They're really doing that this season, playing the two against each other, one good, one bad, or one influences more than the other. We got a chance to see Jacob and his we've been seeing Jacob and the secretary, they have really been showing themselves these past 4 episodes. They've been really showing themselves, Jacob. I'm not too proud of you, Jacob. Anyway, Jacob and the secretary are having an affair. They're laying there in the bed, and Jacob starts telling her about his day and what he went through at Macy's and how people just see him. They don't see who he is inside. They just see this exterior of a black man, and automatically they have fear in their eyes. And we all can relate, not all, but people of color, if you pay attention. Not everyone's eyes, I hope I'm saying this right, everyone's eyes is not always open to what's going on around them. So some people don't notice when they're out at grocery stores or department stores and they're being mistreated, and people are prejudging them based on their exterior, which is the color of their skin. So Jacob kind of shares that, his experience with dealing with racism. And I like that it shows that although they have money and power, they still deal with racism. They deal with people looking at them as less than. They still have the same hardships as the everyday working person. So that was a good part. And he says to her, I don't feel like people see me all the time. They just see my exterior. Sometimes it's based on my color. Sometimes it's based on how sexy I am. Sometimes it's based on them wanting to flirt with me. He just really told her that. He asked her, why are you with me? And she's like, I'm just having fun. And that was a real eye-opener for him. Her first statement, your first statement sometimes is always your most truthful statement. She kind of retracted that statement when they were in bed together again, like saying, I'm here for you. He's saying that he won't leave his wife and all that, which I was like, oh, Lord, Jacob. I'm praying for Jacob. Jacob needs an extra touching. He needs the touch, the oil, all that. I want to touch on the fact that in this episode, they really show the role of a woman in the church. Sometimes that's not always talked about in mainstream media, but women play a huge role in the church. And it could be controversial having women stand up there as preachers. Sometimes certain people, certain men, not all, I don't generalize here on this channel, we don't generalize everybody. But sometimes men just want men to stand in those positions. So on Greenleaf, they showed the woman standing up in the meeting, all those men around except the one lady that did the little double date. But she's telling the bishop, I don't agree with you having having that cop Nelson come to our church. I don't want it. And if you do, I'm going to walk out. And the bishop proclaims, he's like, I'm the pastor and this is what I want to do. And this is how it's going down. You can walk out, you can do what you want, but I have the final say. When Bishop James walked out of that meeting, he still had this look of uncertainty on his face. No one was around. That's a good lesson. He kept it cool in the meeting. He didn't show fear. But, and he had a moment you could tell he was like, I don't know if I'm making the right decision. Bishop, he has his hands in the pot of the politicians. He's dealing with cops. He's been keeping his uncle's secret, so you never know what he had to do to keep that on the low. The uncle molesting and raping girls. So that part was very telling. How a person of power, how can you help the community sometimes when you're in deep with the people who are hurting the community? So that really showed a great point. Sometimes the reason why certain individuals can't help you is because their hands are tied with the people who are hurting you. So that was a great message. Then they go into the church and they have service and the preacher talks. Mind you, the preacher never has a subject. He never has a scripture that he comes from. He just starts talking. I don't know, maybe you guys can do that for season 2. Or maybe this show is not really focusing on the evangelism aspect of the Christian religion. It's just focusing on the singing aspect and the looking nice aspect and the going to church as a ritual aspect. And I feel like I might touch on that in another video. That is what is going on in a lot of our churches today. It's a ritual. It's something that we do every Sunday because that's what we've been doing. Our hearts have not been pierced to really study the Word of God and live according to His Word. And he's up talking about Black Lives Matter. He said Black Lives Matter. The food that we choose to eat matters. He brings out the cops in that community. And they come on stage and the lady who's a deaconess, she's like, oh my God, like what is the Reverend doing having these cops come out like this? He had a lot of black cops. It would have been cool if they would have had like all white cops, which I might get some pushback, but people that are doing the killing don't look like the individuals that they're killing. Just like I said in episode 2 when I was reviewing, it goes deeper. Sometimes you have to go to the root of the problem in order to solve the problem. And a lot of that tension between the police and people within certain communities is a racial component to that, where a person sees you one way, so they interact with you in the way that they see you in their mind. Even if they've never met you as an individual, whatever they've been taught about people like you or what they've seen on television about people like you, in their mind, you're those people. So that's how they interact with you. That could be the reason for a lot of people interacting violently with certain groups of people. He brings the cops out and people start to walk out of the church. They're like, no, what you doing, Pastor? We are not agreeing with this, because these people go to the church or in the community. Greenleaf has not shown what type of community this particular mega church is nestled in, whether it's an urban community, an upper class community. It hasn't really shown us the community at large, or I haven't seen the community. If you guys have seen the type of community that Greenleaf is centered in, please let me know in the comment section down below. The people start getting up. They're like, we're not agreeing with this. Like, what are you doing? These people don't love us. We're not going to stand here and allow them to come in our sanctuary and be a part of our service. They're killing us. The deaconess walks out and he just continues to talk. End of the service, and they go back to his office and he's talking to the police chief, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And he's like, you know, thank you, you're going to make the paper. And he kind of feels kind of some type of way about what he did. I'm not sure if it's sincere, but he's like, you know, I don't know if I want to, I don't even want the pool or whatever he was offering. The police chief said something really odd, like the have-nots don't really matter. It doesn't matter what they think. Because I think he felt a way about whether people less fortunate would feel a way about him having those police enter the building. But the police chief was like, they don't even matter. Who cares what they think? And I feel like that's a lot of the problem. People put certain people on levels and pedestals of this person matters, even in the church. Like, I can't stand people who have VIP sections. There is no VIP when we leave this earth. No one is more important than the other. Carissa and Jacob go to see a counselor about their marriage problems, and Jacob doesn't really say anything in the counseling session, so Carissa believes that he's not really into solving their marriage problems. He just listens. She's like, I'm going to stop us from going to counseling. We don't have to go anymore. And Jacob's like, no, I want to continue to go. Just because I'm not talking in the sessions doesn't mean I'm not listening. I feel like Jacob, although he may not want Carissa in a marriage, that there is a healing that needs to take place within Jacob. He has issues within himself that needs to be worked on. My standout this episode was Bishop James GreenLeaf. The guy who plays Bishop James GreenLeaf, he's a great actor. He's known to play a reverend or a deacon in other movies, so he knows where to pull from to give you that presence of a reverend when he has the robe and all that. I love Lynn Whitfield. We got to see a soft side in her when Charity comes to speak with her and tells her that she's having a baby. So Lynn has these different layers. Lynn is doing a great job. I'm loving Grace. Grace Greenleaf in this episode, she was a standout for me. She plays her role. I've never seen her in anything, or not that I can remember. I gotta check her out. But her facial expressions are on point when it comes to her acting. She shows all her emotions in her face, and that to me is a great actress. The makings of a great actress. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought about Greenleaf episode 4. I will see you guys next time. Bye.